There is a particular quality that certain entryways have. You notice it immediately, and you feel it before you can fully articulate what's creating it. The front door looks considered. The space around it feels curated. Something is happening at that entrance that elevates the entire front of the house from simply presentable to genuinely beautiful. And almost every time you trace that quality back to its source, you find plants. Specifically, you find hanging baskets planted with the kind of deliberate, thoughtful selection that produces a display far more impressive than the sum of its individual parts. The word expensive gets used a lot in design conversations, and what it almost always means, when you examine it carefully, is not actually costly. It means considered. It means layered. It means that someone made decisions about color, texture, form, and proportion rather than simply filling a space with whatever was available. And the remarkable thing about hanging baskets is that you can achieve that considered, layered, proportioned quality for almost no money at all. If you choose the right plants, plant them at the right time, and understand how they work together. April is that right time. The cool soil temperatures, the gentle lengthening days, the moderate conditions that sit precisely in the establishment sweet spot for the plants on today's list. All of it combines in April to give a hanging basket the best possible start. Plants established in cool spring conditions develop root systems that sustain generous, continuous displays through the most demanding weeks of summer. They fill their baskets faster, they trail more abundantly, they flower more continuously, they look more expensive, more quickly, than baskets planted in warmer months ever manage. The 12 plants on today's list were chosen because each one contributes something specific and irreplaceable to a hanging basket that looks expensive. Some trail with a drama and a generosity that makes the basket look overflowing and abundant. Some provide the bold structural color at the center that anchors everything around it. Some contribute texture so fine and intricate that they add a layer of visual complexity that makes the overall display read as genuinely designed. Some bring fragrance that reaches the person approaching the door before they've even fully registered the visual display. Together, in the combinations I'll describe as we move through them, these 12 plants create entryway displays that make visitors stop, look, and ask, who planted those? Let's go through all 12. Number 1 is double trailing petunia. The difference between a hanging basket that looks expensive and one that merely looks nice often comes down to a single quality: generosity. The sense that the basket is overflowing, that it has more than enough of everything, that abundance rather than adequacy is the operating principle. Double trailing petunias deliver that sense of generosity more immediately and more dramatically than almost any other basket plant available in April. The flowers are the reason. Double petunias produce blooms so full, so ruffled, so layered with petals that each individual flower looks like a miniature rose, an effect that reads as genuinely luxurious at the scale of a hanging basket. In colors from deep velvety purple and rich burgundy to soft blush pink and clean pure white, they bring a richness of flower form that single-flowered varieties simply cannot match. And when a well-established double-trailing petunia basket reaches full performance in late May or early June, those flowers are produced in such quantity that the foliage beneath them largely disappears. April planting is critical for double-trailing petunias because these are vigorous plants that need and reward an early start more than almost anything else in the basket palette. The cool spring establishment window builds the root system that sustains that extraordinary flower production, because producing hundreds of those full, ruffled, multi-petaled blooms simultaneously demands significant root infrastructure. A basket planted in April has that infrastructure in place by the time the plant is ready to perform. A basket planted in June is still building it while trying to flower at the same time, and the compromise shows in a display that never quite achieves the overflowing abundance that makes double petunias so spectacular. Thumbelina series and Surfinia double series are the most reliable April basket performers, with trailing stems that reach 2 feet or more from the basket rim, and flower production that begins in late spring and continues through autumn with regular liquid feeding every 2 weeks from May onward. Place 2 or 3 plants per basket for the kind of full, generous, overflowing display that makes an entryway look immediately expensive. Number 2 is Lobelia Fountain Series. Standard trailing lobelia is a basket staple that most gardeners know. Lobelia fountain series is what happens when that staple gets refined, intensified, and made dramatically more impressive in every quality that made the original valuable. The trailing habit is longer and more vigorous. The flower color is more saturated and more consistent. The overall basket coverage is denser and more complete. And the effect at peak performance, a waterfall of intensely colored blue, white, rose, or crimson cascading from the basket rim, is one of the most genuinely beautiful things a front door basket can produce. The reason Fountain Series specifically earns its place on this list, rather than standard trailing lobelia, is the combination of trailing length and flower density that makes it read as expensive, rather than simply pretty. Standard trailing lobelia produces a pleasant fringe. Fountain Series produces a curtain, a solid, unbroken sheet of color that hangs from the basket rim with a completeness and a drama that transforms the entire entryway composition. April planting gives fountain lobelia the cool establishment window that this cool season plant is biologically designed to exploit. The root system develops rapidly in cool spring potting mix, building the extensive, fine root network that sustains the plant's extraordinary flowering performance. By late May, an April-planted fountain lobelia basket is producing that signature curtain of color in full effect, weeks ahead of a later planting, and with a root system backing that keeps the display performing through the first weeks of summer heat with a resilience that late-planted alternatives can't match. Plant fountain lobelia around the entire perimeter of the basket, with individual plants spaced evenly so that the trailing stems form a continuous curtain rather than isolated clumps. Combined with double petunias at the basket center, the contrast between those full, ruffled blooms above and the fine, dense color curtain below creates a layered display that looks genuinely considered and genuinely expensive. Number 3 is Bacopa Snowstorm. Bacopa Snowstorm occupies a specific and irreplaceable role in expensive-looking hanging basket design, the role of the fine detail that makes everything around it look more refined. The flowers are tiny, individually almost impossibly small, but produced in such continuous and such complete abundance along the trailing stems that an established snowstorm plant creates a lace-like edge of white or soft pink that adds a layer of delicacy to the basket composition that no other plant at this scale provides. That fine detail quality is exactly what separates baskets that look expensive from those that look merely colorful. Expensive-looking design always contains at least one element of intricacy, something that rewards close examination, something that adds complexity without adding visual noise. Bacopa Snowstorm is that element in a hanging basket. From a distance, it reads as a soft, fine-textured white edge. Up close, it resolves into hundreds of individual tiny flowers, each perfectly formed, covering the trailing stems so completely that the foliage beneath is barely visible. April planting builds the root system that sustains Snowstorm's continuous flowering through the entire basket season. This is not a plant that produces one dramatic flush and then declines. It flowers from April planting through the first frost in a genuinely continuous performance that requires no deadheading and very little intervention beyond consistent watering and regular feeding. The Snowstorm Giant Snowflake variety produces slightly larger flowers than standard Bacopa, while maintaining the fine-textured, trailing habit, and its vigor makes it the most reliable April basket performer in the series. Use Bacopa Snowstorm at the basket edges in every combination you plant. It works with everything: the bold ruffled flowers of double petunias, the intense color curtain of fountain lobelia, the structured center plants later on this list. It never competes. It only enhances. Number 4 is Calibrachoa Superbells. Calibrachoa Superbells is the workhorse of the expensive-looking hanging basket, the plant that produces the most continuous, most self-sustaining, most abundantly colored display of any basket plant available in April, and does so without asking for the deadheading, the constant attention, or the mid-season replacement that maintaining that level of performance would require from any less capable plant. The flowers are petunia-shaped but significantly smaller, carried in such extraordinary quantity across the trailing and mounding stems that an established Superbells plant in full performance looks like it has been covered in flowers by someone with a great deal of patience and very small hands. The self-cleaning habit means spent flowers drop naturally and new ones open continuously, maintaining the display without any intervention from the gardener. In a front door basket that needs to look good every morning without daily maintenance, that self-sustaining quality is not a convenience, it is essential. The color range of Superbells is broad enough to anchor any entryway color scheme. Cherry red and pomegranate punch for bold, warm-toned combinations against cream or gray painted doors. Dreamsicle and peachy keen for softer, warmer tones that work beautifully with warm stone and red brick. Grape punch and blue for cool-toned combinations alongside fountain lobelia and bacopa. Lemon slice for that clean, sharp yellow that lifts a combination and prevents it from reading as heavy. April planting gives Superbells calibrachoa the root establishment that its extraordinary flower production demands. These plants produce hundreds of simultaneous blooms throughout the season, and sustaining that production requires a root system capable of significant water and nutrient uptake. Plant in April, feed regularly from late May, and Superbells will produce the kind of continuous, generous, self-sustaining color display that makes an entryway basket look expensive from opening day through the last warm weeks of autumn. Number 5 is Fuchsia Dollar Princess. Among all the fuchsia varieties available for April basket planting, Dollar Princess occupies a specific position at the top of the expensive-looking entryway category for reasons that become immediately obvious the first time you see it in full bloom. The flowers are double, combining cerise pink outer petals with a rich purple inner skirt, and they hang in such profusion from trailing stems that an established basket produces a display of pendulous, jewel-like blooms that stops people in their tracks with a reliability that no other basket plant on this list quite matches. The theatrical quality of fuchsia, that movement, that pendulous hang, those two-toned flowers swaying gently in any breeze, is what gives a front door entryway the sense of genuine luxury that makes it look expensive. It is not a subtle plant, it is a declaration, and Dollar Princess makes that declaration in colors so rich and so precisely combined that the display reads as curated rather than accidental, designed rather than simply planted. April is the planting month that unlocks Dollar Princess's full performance potential. Established through cool spring conditions with consistent moisture and shelter from the most intense midday sun, a Dollar Princess basket develops the root system that sustains that extraordinary flower production through the entire display season. Keep it out of hot afternoon sun. Fuchsias prefer bright, indirect light over direct midday exposure. Water consistently, and feed every 2 weeks from late May. Those conditions maintained from April planting produce the most spectacular and most continuously flowering fuchsia basket your entryway has ever seen. Number 6 is Ivy Geranium Tornado Series. The difference between standard ivy geraniums and Tornado Series ivy geraniums is the difference between a good basket plant and an exceptional one. Tornado varieties have been bred specifically for the kind of vigorous trailing, weather-resistant, continuously flowering performance that front door entryway baskets demand. And the result is a plant that covers a basket more completely, trails more confidently, and maintains its display through more challenging conditions than any standard ivy geranium can match. The flowers are carried in bold clusters, substantial enough to read clearly from a distance, numerous enough to cover the basket surface with a density of color that looks generous and full rather than sparse and tentative. Colors across the tornado range include salmon, pink, white, red, and lilac. A palette broad enough to complement any front door color scheme and warm enough to contribute that sense of welcoming richness that makes an entryway feel expensive. April planting suits tornado ivy geraniums perfectly. The waxy foliage handles the cool nights and occasional showers of early spring without damage. The root system establishes vigorously in cool potting mix, and by late May, the basket is producing that confident, weather-resistant display that carries the entryway through spring, summer, and into autumn, without the mid-season declines that less resilient basket plants show. Plant 2 tornado ivy geraniums per basket, alongside trailing lobelia and bacopa for a combination of bold flower clusters and fine trailing textures that creates exactly the layered, considered display that expensive entryways are built around. Number 7 is Osteospermum asti series. Osteospermum asti series provides the bold structural center that transforms a hanging basket from a collection of trailing plants into a composed, designed display. The flowers are large, daisy-scale blooms in white, yellow, orange, and purple held on upright stems above the basket center, visible from across the garden path, commanding attention from a distance and anchoring everything trailing around them with a focal point presence that fine-textured plants cannot provide alone. April planting captures Osteospermum at its biological best. This is a cool season performer that flowers most prolifically in the gentle warmth of late spring, precisely the conditions an April planting is positioned to exploit. Place 1 or 3 Oste plants at the basket center. Let the trailers flow outward from them in every direction, and the contrast between those bold, upright blooms and the cascading textures surrounding them creates the layered, proportioned display that reads immediately as expensive. Number 8 is Nemesia aromatica. Nemesia aromatica adds 2 things to an entryway basket that nothing else on this list provides simultaneously: intricate bicolor flowers of extraordinary delicacy and a genuine fragrance that reaches visitors before they've fully registered the visual display. That combination of visual complexity and scent is precisely what elevates a basket from attractive to memorable. The flowers are small, two-lipped, and produced in such abundance above compact mounding foliage that the plant appears embroidered at peak performance. Cool April conditions suit Nemesia perfectly. Plant it toward the basket center alongside Osteospermum. Let Bacopa trail around it, and the resulting combination of bold structure, intricate detail, and fine lace creates a display of genuine sophistication. Number 9 is Diascia flying colors. Diascia flying colors trails gently outward from the basket in relaxed, flowing stems carrying loose racemes of coral, salmon, and rose flowers that bring warm tones and soft movement to the entryway display. That warmth and movement, the way Diascia stems catch a breeze and animate the basket, contributes a living quality that makes the display feel genuinely considered rather than static. April planting builds the root system that sustains Diascia's long season, and established plants frequently rebloom in autumn when temperatures moderate, giving the entryway 2 distinct seasons of warm-toned color from one April planting. Number 10 is Scaevola surdiva. Scaevola surdiva is the heat and drought tolerance insurance that every front door basket needs. The distinctive fan-shaped blue-purple flowers trail continuously from established plants through the most demanding summer weeks, carrying the basket display with a resilience that rewards the gardener who chose it specifically for difficult sun-exposed positions. Number 11 is Sweet Alyssum. Sweet alyssum threads through a basket with honey-scented white flowers so fine and so continuously produced that it adds fragrance, delicacy, and a soft white unifying layer that ties bolder colors together into a coherent, considered composition. Number 12 is Verbena superbena. Verbena superbena closes the list with bold, weather-resistant flower clusters in saturated colors that provide the mid-level intensity layer, the visual weight between fine-textured trailers and bold center plants that completes the composition and gives the basket its final sense of fullness and abundance. 3 basket combinations that bring all 12 together. For a classic entryway with a dark front door, center with Dollar Princess fuchsia and Osteospermum, surround with Superbells calibrachoa and Superbena verbena, edge with Fountain lobelia and Snowstorm bacopa. The result is layered, jewel-toned, and unmistakably expensive. For a soft, romantic entryway, center with double-trailing petunia in blush pink and Nemesia aromatica, surround with Diascia in coral and Sweet Alyssum, edge with Bacopa and pale lavender Scaevola. Fragrant, delicate, and genuinely beautiful. For a bold, modern entryway, center with Tornado Ivy geranium in red and Osteospermum in white, surround with Superbells in lemon and Superbena in deep burgundy, edge with Fountain lobelia in white and Sweet Potato Vine in near black. Structured, high contrast, and commanding. Plant in April, establish in cool spring conditions, feed from late May, and let 12 carefully chosen plants do what the right basket always does: Make an entryway look like someone with genuine taste lives there. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.